disappointed with this budget. There's no shift in economic policy. It looks like this new growth path that Patel is talking about is handcuffed by the old orthodoxies that have been dominant in South Africa's economy. Examples which Praveen Gordhan said today. He said, our priority is to keep what he calls a stable macroeconomic policy environment. So when we unpack what that means, it means a few things. It means that we are going to do everything to ensure that the investors, that is people with a lot of money, not in their pockets but in their bank accounts, will retain confidence in South Africa. They have nothing to fear that their investments are going to be attacked, that their investments are going to be eroded. Now, I'm sorry to have to tell you, some people are rich because other people are poor. It's not, we can make everybody rich. There's got to be, you only get rich by making other people poor. Now what Praveen Gordhan has said here is their investments are sacrosanct. They mustn't be eroded. So we must do everything in our policies to ensure that the value of their investment remains high. This is called inflation targeting. Okay? Inflation targeting means that we try to keep the price of goods not going up. Okay? Now that also sounds a very good thing. Who wants to pay more for food? Who wants to pay more for petrol? Nobody of us wants to do that. But the method by which they keep prices down is not by saying we are going to determine as government, because we have lots of poor people in this country, bread price is going to be fixed at this rate. And anybody who sells bread around more than that is going to go to jail. Now they don't say that. They say we are going to keep the prices down by ensuring that when people want to borrow money in order to start a factory or whatever, they've got to pay a lot for that money. It means that what we have is it's difficult for people to invest in new projects, in job creating activities. But on the other hand, because interest rates are high when you want to borrow money from the bank, those with money put their money in the bank because they're going to get a good return on it, and then it doesn't create jobs. But at the same time, they say we must create jobs. And what do they want? How do they in this budget say we must create jobs? By giving money to the big corporations. What we're going to do, says Praveen Gordhan, echoing Jacob Zuma, is that we are going to give huge tax incentives. In other words, if you put money in opening up a factory, a manufacturing plant, you can get money back. You don't have to pay so much tax. So that is not for us, it's for the rich, right? And the assumption is that these people are going to create jobs. But if we look closely at the South African economy, when they invest in factories, because basically what Praveen Gordhan has done in the last year in the budget was to allow money to flow out of this country with no strings attached. There are no regulations keeping the money in the country. So when they do invest, they invest in capital intensive enterprises, not labor intensive, not ones which create many jobs. When I have money as an investor, what do I want? Am I interested in poor Mzonki living in a shack?
No.
What's my interest? My interest is profit. So, how can you expect the corporations to solve our unemployment problem, which 1/4 of the population, officially, of the working age population is unemployed? And when we look more closely at the statistics, we see, and from our experiences we know, that it's much closer to 50% of the working age population that do not have work. How is corporations going to resolve that problem when their motive is profit making? Yet, instead of putting money aside for building more hospitals, houses, schools, clinics, and making the state the provider of the jobs, they hope the private sector will do it. In fact, 9 billion rand over the next 3 years has been put aside in the government and the private sector undertaking joint initiatives together. Okay? Now we've seen 17 years of the same policy failing. Why will it suddenly change? It's not going to change. I think it's important to understand every budget happens within an economic policy framework. That economic policy, which we've been fighting against, remains absolutely intact. In fact, in some respects, is reinforced. You are going to hear that in this budget, a huge amount of money is set aside for infrastructural development. A large amount of that money is no different to what we saw last year. There was billions of rand in investment. Where did it go? Went into stadiums. Stadiums that are no longer able to operate. So instead of Kaiser Chiefs and Santos playing in Greenpoint, they played at Athlone because it's too expensive to play in Greenpoint. So that's the type of investment. We saw billions of rand going into the Gautrain, which services very rich people, whereas poor people have to depend on these damn taxis that are falling apart, right? And which are coffins on wheels. So the question is, where is the public transport program to build proper railways and buses and so on to bring us from the townships where they put us far away from the center, isn't it? You would expect a pro-poor government to say, at the center of our employment creating strategy is a massive public transport system. At the center of our strategy is a massive housing program. And if we did these things, it would employ many people.